Hi everybody, this is Ann with Fiber Designs by Ann, and today I'll be making two different candle votives, flameless candles, using fabric that's been stiffened with Material Magic, which is a spray stabilizer. I'll be making this tall version and also this shorter version. So next I'll talk about the materials and supplies you need for this project. The tools and materials that we'll be using will be a pattern that's available on my blog. And the only difference between the short votive and the taller one is that on the pattern of the tall one it's just a little curved at the bottom. Otherwise they're the same pattern. And the pattern's for one petal, and so you'll cut as many as petals you need. This shorter one calls for 5 petals. The fabric I'll be using has been treated with Material Magic, and I use this product a lot. I like exploring it and trying different projects with it. I'm not being paid by Trail Arts, but I do like the product, so that's what I'll be using to stiffen the fabric. The pattern also comes with instructions. I'll be using a cutting mat, and don't use the best side of a cutting mat. Either use an old cutting mat or the back side, because the rotary cutter, the decorative blade, can gouge it. So be aware of that. So you'll need some kind of decorative blade, a piece of treated fabric, as I mentioned. The sizes will be in the instructions that will be linked. You'll also need a piece of freezer paper that will fit the pattern, so as long as the pattern. For the short candle, I use a either purchased votive, or you can use a recycled one that had a regular candle. I've done that and then freeze it and pop the old candle out. And just make sure that your tea light, this is a flameless tea light, you'll also need, fits into the, this is the recycled one. You can see it's a little bit larger than the purchased one that fits it okay still. And then for the tall one, we'll be using what's a bud vase. Now these candle tea lights are sometimes different sizes. It may not go all the way down, and that's why we have a little different design on the tea light, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So the tea light and the votive, you'll need a pair of paper scissors, a thread that matches your fabric, and a sewing machine that sews a straight stitch. I like little clipping shears or fabric scissors. Some kind of wire cutter, these are diagonals. A little piece of lace, and you may or may not use this, I'll explain why in a little bit. And I have cloth covered wire that is 22 gauge, long enough that it fits your pattern. A black permanent marker, a hot glue gun, and an iron and an ironing surface. To begin, we're going to take our pattern and we're going to lay our piece of freezer paper on the pattern, and if you have a straight edge, go ahead and lay it right on that straight edge. That'll make it a little bit easier. And we're going to use our marker, line it up however you want to line it up, and we're just going to trace that line. Sometimes I write fold on there just as a reminder that that's going on the fold of the fabric. Once you have that drawn out, go ahead and take your scissors and cut the pattern out so that you have that pattern. Now we're going to take our fabric, and you want to be sure you're on an ironing surface at this point. And I'm going to fold my fabric in half. Just give it a little crease. Doesn't have to be perfectly in half, just so there's a fold. And then I'm going to set my pattern. Make sure that the pattern has the shiny side down. I'm going to lay it as close as I can to the fold. I'm going to take my iron and I'm going to press. Nice hot dry iron. You don't want any water or steam, no moisture. Let that cool for a minute, and then I'm going to move my ironing surface away and turn this so that the left hand or right hand, whichever works for you, I'll turn it this way, and I'm going to use and I'm not right on the edge, and that's just fine for this. It's not going to matter. I'm going to use the cutter, and I'll press down kind of firmly and start at the top. And I'm using the pattern just as a guide. I don't have to be touching the paper. In fact, it's better for your blade not to. And then at the very bottom and at the top, because I didn't quite get a clean cut here, I'm going to go ahead and just snip that with my scissors. And across the bottom, I'll snip straight across that edge. Now for this short piece, I want 2 pieces this long, and then I want 3 petals that are about 1.25 inches shorter. So we're going to remove the freezer paper, and for the 3 short ones I'll just measure up and just snip across there so that it is will be a shorter petal. So I have my petal now. Now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine. I'm going to start in about 1/2 inch or so, do a little tack stitch, and I'm going to stitch about 1/8 inch in. So I'll start here, I'll go this direction, and then I'll sew all the way down to the bottom, and I'll show you that now. Now my piece is stitched, and I'm going to grab my wire, and I like to use my scissors or a toothpick. Let me zoom in a little so you can see that a little bit better. Just to start that little opening. Then I'll put the wire in and gently push it. If it's not going too far, your casing could be a little too small. I've done that a few times. And if the wire is thinner than this, sometimes it bends as you're pushing it. So just realize those things can give you sometimes a little challenge. And I'm going to push so the wire has come out slightly, and I'm going to bring it back in a little more than maybe 1/4 inch or so, excuse me, 1/8 inch or so. Then I'm going to bring my diagonals. Now when you use these diagonals, hold this piece of wire or put something on top of it. Close your eyes, put goggles on. Just be really careful because that can sometimes go flying. And I'm going to snip it right at the edge of the fabric. And then I'm going to just push a little so that that goes back up closer to that tip so it's not sticking out of either of these ends. Then that petal is ready to go into the little votive. I'm going to glue the petal down. Now it's your choice if you want the seam to be on the back or on the front. It's just more dimensional on the front, but I like it on the back for these pieces. And I want the candle and the bottom of that piece to just match each other. So, doing this without burning yourself, I'm going to just put a little strip of glue right across the candle and then lay the first petal on there. And I'm going to just put a dot on this edge. Then I'm going to take the second petal. These are the 2 longest ones. I'm going to start with the 2 longest petals. And this one's been glued already, but we'll glue it again. And I'm going to put it next to that one and just push it down, being careful not to burn fingers. Now for the short ones, I'll take the 3 short ones. Now, those are the tall 2. So now, get that out of the way. For the short ones, I'm going to go in the middle there, just across from the center of those 2, and put a little bit of glue, and that I'm going to put the 3rd one, which is one of the short ones, on. And then in these 2 other gaps, I'll put the other 2 short pieces. So I'll end up with this. Now, this tea light may have fit into the votive before I added the fabric that has the wire, but now it may not go all the way in, so that there's this little gap. You could fill that with pebbles or something else, but I like to put a little piece of lace across the bottom. So I find where my 2 tall ones are, because I guess usually I think that it's going to be facing away from me, away from the seating area, but it's not that important where you put it. And then put a little glue right in between those 2, my arm down here, in between those 2 petals. And I like to put the scallopy part of the lace down. I looked, when I had this in the glass, I could see what space I had, so that tells me how long to leave the lace below the bottom of the candle. And I just put it in one place, and I bring it around, and it's hot, be careful. And then I just tack it together there. And it's really not going to be that noticeable if this matches or not. It's no big deal. And you can glue it again at the very bottom if you want to, if you need to. Get all the little webbies off. Let it cool before you try to slide it down in here, I would advise. So then to turn it on, I'm going to just switch the switch, which are sometimes kind of tricky. And just stick it down in there. And I can adjust the petals as necessary. And the lace looks pretty. Let me push it a little farther down. And the lace looks pretty in the bottom of the glass. Next we'll do the tall votive. Now for the tall votive, we're using a bud vase. So tea lights are different sizes. It may or may not go all the way to the bottom, but I'm not going to care about that because I'm going to actually suspend this. I'm going to fill the bottom with glass pebbles, and you could use color ones. Since I have white fabric, I'm using clear. And the first thing I'm going to do is, you can measure up if you need to, about 4 inches or so on the pieces, which were put together just like the short votive. And so they're going to go on to the candle and bend away. So I'll put some glue. You can do it across here, or you can do it onto the candle. For the first one. And now on this one, you are going to put the petals about noon, 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock. So we just kind of come over here. My glue's not wanting to go. There we go. And I'll just do it so that it's about the same length as the first one. And then I'll put the glue in the center. And set this last one in there. Let that cool. Then check it out by sending it into the bud vase, and you'll push it down. And you can rearrange these. These actually have a little bit stiffer wire in them, but you can use whichever works. And so now this is above the bottom of the glass, and I'll take it out. I do this so that this can be turned on and off. Now we're going to put the pebbles in, and I'll probably cut the sound because it's going to be noisy. And that's about a half a cup of pebbles. And I'll stick the flower petals back in. And now it's sort of tricky. You just kind of roll it around as you're pushing the candle down as far as you want it to go. And that's good for the day. And you'd want to take it out, switch it on. Some of these are really hard to work. There we go. And if when switching it on it comes unglued, it means I didn't have enough glue, because my glue gun's being temperamental today. There we go. And it's plastic, so it can come off, but it's been holding pretty well. I've done this a few times, and that's actually the first time I've had one come off. Again, we'll let it cool. That will help. Put the candle in, and as you're pushing it, roll the pebbles around. And it doesn't matter on which side of the candle they're on, or which side of the petals they're on, it still looks pretty. And there is your tall petal votive. So if you like this project, I hope you'll like and subscribe. This is Anne with Fiber Designs by Anne. Thanks for watching.